What is up, guys? My name is Trip and welcome to the first video on my YouTube channel. So a little bit of information about me. I've always wanted to do this one. Not always, but for about the past 5 years I've really wanted to get into YouTube and make a living building cars and putting them on there. And this bike right here is going to be my segue into that. So this is my 2021 Zx6r Kawasaki Racing Team Edition. And today I got a few parts that we're going to be installing on it. So we got a tail light integrated, so it's got some turn signals integrated into the tail light that are sequential, so we can program that in. These are going to be made by TST Industries. I also got a matching pair of the front turn signals and Fender Eliminator tip so that we can start trying to clean this up. Eventually, what I want to do is I want to have it so that when I get a new exhaust, looking at the M4 exhaust, it'll come down to about here, which you guys probably can't see. I'll have to adjust the camera and explain it a little bit later, and then move the passenger pegs. What that'll do is it'll make it look really clean in the back. And so yeah, it might take a few videos, but we're going to see how far we can get today. Alright guys, so this is a little bit better view of the bike. As you can see here, this is the exhaust I was talking about. It's quite a bit bulky, and it covers up a lot of the wheel gear. So eventually what will happen is I'll get that M4 exhaust, which to my knowledge comes out to about here on the stock exhaust. So it really takes a lot of this out, which adds a lot to providing weight reduction and also looking a lot more pleasant. Along with taking this exhaust off, we won't need these passenger pegs anymore. Once that all gets taken off and stuff, it'll look super clean. But for today, all we're going to be doing is taking this fender off. We're going to be changing out this tail light up here, and then we'll also be doing the front turn signals. So in order to start doing that, what we're going to need to do is take off the driver's seat and then the passenger seat so that we can get inside here so we can remove the bolts and pins that hold down the fenders here, or the plastics as some people refer to them. So yeah, we're going to switch angles here. More or less I'm going to turn the bike around so that the lighting is still good. And we'll start tearing this guy apart, and I'll try and provide as much information as I can for you guys. The first step into taking these seats off is there is a little keyhole right here. And what we're going to want to do is go in here. We're just going to unlock that guy and pop this seat up here. Now that's going to pry up your driver's seat. And it just snaps out of this little pin here, and there's also this big one down here that slides in right above the battery, the bracket that holds the battery in. After you take this seat off, I'm just going to set this aside. I'm going to move the camera again here. There's a little pin that you need to pull in order to take the passenger seat off, so we'll show you guys that next. So the pin I was referring to, which isn't really a pin, it's a little cable pull. It's right here. It's super easy to pull, it's not hard at all. You're just going to go ahead and give that a little tug, and that's going to release your passenger seat so that you can pull that guy out. There's a little lock or latch mechanism right here, and that's what this pin pulls. And that's going to unlock this piece right here, and then you'll just pull it forward to get the sliders or the little locks out from underneath this right there. First thing we need to do here is we need to take all of these mounting bolts out. And then there are two more of these, or four actually, of these push fasteners here, which are kind of like rivets. They got little holes on the inside there. I'll give you a zoomed in view of that so you can kind of see it a little better. We'll push those pins in, which will release them, and then we can pull those guys out. So we're just going to go ahead and we'll start from the back. We'll start taking these little bolts out here. They got washers on them, so we want to make sure we keep the washers with those. Make sure we don't lose these bolts here. This bolt and this bolt here, they're a little bit different in size. So this is going to be your front one, and this is that middle one, and then that rear one is about the same size as the front one, but it has a washer. So we're going to make sure we keep a hold of these, put them somewhere safe so we don't lose them, and we'll go ahead and do the front side also. Alright, so now that we got those 6 bolts out here, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take these push pins out. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on the first one here and let you guys see kind of how this operates. So as you can see here, this is that rivet that I was talking about. And all you got to do is just push that little tab in. You can hear it snap. You see that push in there? That's all you need to do to unlock it. So I'm going to go ahead and do this rear one also. And then I'll zoom back out. We'll get these front 2 out, and then I'll show you kind of how to remove those out of there. We'll go ahead and push the pins on these front 2. Now we can go ahead and remove them out. It's just as easy as pushing on the back of these, and they pop right out. And these guys are a little more tricky. I'm going to tuck this in the old sweatshirt for now. And I want to kind of pull up on the panel a little bit, and you'll be able to slide that guy out. Now be gentle with all these panels. You don't want to accidentally break your panel. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put those with our other bolts. And then I'm going to move the camera just slightly back so I can show you how to remove this panel here. Moving this panel, it's not too difficult, but you want to make sure that you're careful. So there's a lot of grommets, rubber grommets that hold these in. They're kind of like push-ins, and then a lot of places where it kind of locks into place. I'll flip the panel around after I get this out to kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So this first one just kind of slides into the rear. Make sure we don't damage it here. Pops right out. And then we got, like I said, a couple of those rubber grommets in here. We're going to also pop out, so just gotta be a little careful with it. Alright, and then up in the front here, we got another one of those grommets. I'm going to pop that guy out, and we'll just twist a little bit forward, and I'll show you why. So right in the front piece here, there's a little lock, locks into the bottom. Here's one of those rubber grommets I was talking about. There's a little pin in here that slides into this rubber grommet. On the back side of this panel, you see you got another one of those pins and another grommet here. Now that pin is going to slide into a rubber grommet that's just down here, and then this rubber grommet slides over this pin. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to repeat this process on the other side after I set this guy down. Got that back one out, and as you saw me fussing around over here, I accidentally released another one up in the front, which I don't need to do, so I went ahead and put that back into place. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take this guy off, and I'll show you how to do that. So, what we're going to be doing here is right here, there's a little Phillips head screw. We're going to go ahead and loosen that on both sides, pull that guy out, and that's going to go ahead and release this panel. There's going to be nothing else holding that guy on. So just go ahead and get that guy out of there. Keep that, and then we'll do it on the other side. Go ahead and put these aside with our other hardware. And this little piece here, I'm going to come ahead and go right off. There is one thing we're going to need to do with it though. So the other thing holding this panel on is going to be just a little push pin that holds where the screw goes in on both sides. I'm going to show you that as we get over there. And on the back side of this, there's a little cable management clip here. And all we're going to do is just loosen that guy up, and let these cables fall out, and then your panel is free. We'll go ahead and set this aside with our other panels. Now I forgot to show you guys this, so I brought it back over here, but this is what holds the screws in. It's almost similar to like a drywall anchor, where the screw comes in here, and these guys are going to expand out, which holds it in place on the bike. So the next step in our process is going to be removing this bolt and the bolt right back here, and that's going to allow us to pull the servo out, which is going to let us get access to the inside, which is going to help us remove our fender and further get into taking out the tail lights. So you're going to need the good old dreaded 10mm and a ratchet, or if you wanted to, you could do this first one with a wrench. We're going to go ahead and loosen those guys up, okay? For this back one, you are going to need an extension, so I'm going to grab one, and then we're going to go ahead and take that back one out. Once we get our bolts, we're going to go ahead and put those aside again so we don't lose them, and then we can move this servo. Alright, so our bolts are put away. We can go ahead and take this servo. You want to be a little bit careful with it, but they're pretty durable. And as you can see, there are wires hooked up in this little boot here. Now these are what connect our servo to the computer of the bike. You can connect these if you would like, disconnect them if you would like, but make sure you don't turn your bike on. If you do, it's going to throw a code, and that's something that you just don't want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place it over to the side. We're going to grab a rag, set it over here so we don't damage anything or scuff up our plastics. So we'll go ahead and throw this guy in here. Make sure she's nice and tucked away. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and disconnect these other clips in here. Now these other ones are going to work for our Fender's turn signals and the brake light. So it's just little push pin clips. They're pretty simple to do, but getting inside the rag is a little difficult. Or the boot, I'm sorry. Focused on the rag up there. For this one, it looks like we are going to need a little screwdriver, so I'm going to get one. So I grabbed the little smaller one, go ahead and push this pin out, pull this cable, that guy slips right out, and it's going to be the same process for the gray. There we go. Now we got all these cables free, which means that we can go ahead and start removing the 4 or 5mm bolts here and the Phillips head screws. I'm going to go ahead and move the camera around so that you guys can see in here and see what I'm doing. So I got my 5mm here. I didn't have it in the little turn Allens, so we're going to go ahead and take these bolts out. These ones are a little tighter, geez. Go ahead and switch this out and put our Phillips back in and start taking these guys out. Screw out of there. Now your fender is going to be loose. So you can go ahead and carefully remove your wires. And that goes ahead and, oh Jesus, breaking everything. That'll pull your fender off, and so you won't need this guy anymore if you got a Fender Eliminator, which I do. So we'll go ahead and install that in this video too. But we're going to keep working towards taking this tail light out. Now we're down to pretty much the last parts of pulling this tail light out. The first thing you want to do, the tail light connection is actually up here. It's held in by a little pin that you got to squeeze together. Easiest to use is pliers. That's what we're going to use here. We're going to go in here. We're just going to squeeze this together. Push it down below. And that will release that mechanism. Pliers go into the dungeon. We're going to go ahead and feed this guy around. And that is going to expose, let me get some light on it, this clip right here. You can push down to pull out your connection. So you can go ahead and feed this through, and there's another cable management clip right here, which is super easy. They're not too hard to get off. You just kind of push them to the side and it flips it right out, just like that. And then this cable will come loose. Now, all we have to do in order to get the tail light out is first we're going to start by removing these two screws here with the Phillips head screwdriver. So out of the dungeon we go. We're going to go ahead and get those out. And that is going to drop the tail, which is nothing to be worried about. This top piece, lift right off. We can go ahead and set that aside. Now we can go ahead, pull this down just a smidge. We don't want to do too much. We're going to keep everything kind of in its place. Go ahead and take off these top two. And these two are going to hold this little bracket in place, which you can just slip right out. We're going to set these aside also. Now, last thing that's going to be holding this tail light in are these two screws right here and here. So we can go ahead and loosen those. Pop those guys out, set those aside. Screwdriver back in the dungeon. And then what we're going to want to do is use your bottom of your hands, and you're going to push this up off of the grommets that are holding it on. And you'll kind of push the tail light forward and around these little clips here. Be a little careful, you don't want anything to break. And then your old tail light, which slides right on out. And then you've removed your OEM, which mine is a little dirty, but that tail light is out. So now we can go ahead and start on installing our new tail light. I wanted to go ahead and show you what this tail light looks like from TST. So I got mine in the smoked version, and they do have it in a non-smoked clear version if that's what you'd like. I just wanted to go with a little darker version, you know, be that cool guy. But it comes with all the components you're going to need to plug it back in. It does come with factory plugins, so it's all plug and play, super easy to do, just plug it right on in. Makes it super easy for the install. Just figured I'd give you guys a little look at it before it was installed, and then we'll give you a look after also. So one thing I neglected to tell you guys was that you're going to want to go ahead and save these rubber grommets off that tail light. These rubber grommets are going to be reused on our new tail light from TST again. And they are not sponsoring this, obviously. I am brand new to YouTube, but they're pretty easy to slip off. They're pretty pliable, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to squeeze that back in here and put it on the new tail light. So. Give her an old turn just to make sure it seats well. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Just from doing that side, I found it's a little easier to push on just that front hinge, or the front lip that you're going to be pushing in. I'll kind of bend it so that you can slip her through. And we'll go ahead and feed the rest of it in. We'll go ahead and give her a little spin again. She sits right in. So it's all ready to go, so we're going to go ahead and start sliding her back in. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and untwist this tie. Get the cables ready to run. This guy can just go in the trash over there. Straighten these guys out. Sure, a little gentle with it. I don't want to break any wires, so hard to break a wire though. So go ahead and feed this guy through. Push down on this a little bit. Dodge all the other items. We're basically going back in the same way we came out, so there's some cables in the way on this side. So squeeze it through, get her in place, and push it right back over those grommets. Sits right in place. They did a really good job of making these fit right into the bike, so no complaints at all. TST, you guys do an amazing job with these. So we'll go ahead and get ready to start setting this back into place. So we'll go ahead and grab our parts. We'll start with those two front bolts. Alright, so we got our 2 bolts. We'll go ahead and start feeding these in. Now, my screwdriver is magnetic, which insanely helps with this. Never mind. Let's try and get this guy down in here. Go. Go ahead and grab the front clip and our 2 screws that held this guy in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by sliding this back in. It does have a little rubber piece here, probably helps with dampening rattling sound. Squeeze her back into place, make sure those holes line up real nice. Go ahead and screw these guys in. strip out your plastic. So she's seated in there real well. Looks super nice on the outside. See what it's like when we get her all put back together. So now we're going to go ahead and get that piece that we took off right here. Get this set back up in place where it should be. Holds this guy and helps hold the tail up with this little lip right here. If you look right in here, there's little tabs that kind of hold that lip into place. Just going to lock that in there, lift her up, and get her in position. To the screw, feed her with your hand first. That's just a personal preference. You guys can do whatever you like. Please. Wait, that's wrong hole. Wrong hole. Just lift it back up. And please, and tighten this guy in. Make sure all our panels are lining up nice. It's looking good. The next step is going to be routing these wires, and these guys are going to actually plug right back in to the boot up here. So we're going to go ahead and feed that back through our clip. Run her underneath. You only need the brake light to run underneath. So we'll run that guy. Remember that clip goes on the bottom, so we'll flip this guy around. Plug that bad boy in. Feed it back underneath, nice and easy. Go ahead and get this clip ready to go back into place. Give it a little shove up. Clicks right back in. Nice and easy. And then these wires here are what's going to run our turn signals that are integrated into this tail light. So I'll go ahead and plug these turn signals back in. Now, what we're going to need to do is grab our little turn signals here. We'll plug these guys into those signals. So, clicks right into place. Alright, and then now the only way to check and see if these are correct is if we go ahead and power up the bike and check our turn signals to make sure they're correct. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is check out this programming feature. So we can kind of run through it together and figure it out. So there's a little button right here. If you click that button, it's going to flip through the features. So I don't know quite how it works. I don't believe there are any instructions for it. So we're going to go ahead, run through that, and try and figure this guy out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and power up the bike. I want you guys to remember though, if you disconnected your servo, do not start up the bike. Mine is still connected, so I can go ahead and do this. It won't throw a code. So go ahead and turn her on. You can see our brake light light up. It's pretty slick. Go ahead and press our brake. So we got the little flashing hazard. Beware. Let's try our blinkers. So that is correct. That is correct. Okay, let's go ahead and see if we can flip through these functions here and see if we can change them up a bit. So there is the sequential that I was looking for. Let's see what that next mode is. A little flashing. So I think I'm going to stick with the sequential. Looks as though what you have to do in order to program this is initiate what you want to program. So I have my left blinker on, or right blinker, Jesus. Now let's go ahead and turn our left blinker on. That guy is all programmed. Go ahead and turn those guys off. Let's try our brake. That guy didn't change. Put it back on the strobe. That's what I want it to do. So I want it to strobe and then solid. Now let's try our blinkers again, see if that changed anything. And it did. So looks like we gotta kind of flip through these functions a little bit. Let's see if my brake is the same now. Alright, so I think that's what I want to have right there. I want to have these guys sequential, and the brake do the strobe and then solid. Perfect. So that's what we're going to do. And all I did was click that button, super easy to use, looks super nice, and I also like that smoked. Looks real clean with the bike, so I'm very happy. Alright, so what I ended up doing is I decided I'm not going to run the light So I went ahead and put this hole, covered it up. They send a bolt and nut that you can go ahead and cover that up, super easy to install. And now for the adjustable fender eliminator, what they send are these little wings that come down, and you kind of want them to swoop back. So when I install it, it's going to sit up like this. Snug her up. What I want to do is make sure that these holes will line up. And as of right now, they look pretty good where they are. So go ahead and tighten this guy up. Making sure that that hole stays nice and straight. Just like that. Nice and snug in there. So you want that to mount properly. Alright, now the next piece is going to be this, which is actually the adjustable part. Kind of sits on this ring here, and this is what will let us adjust where our taillight sits. So mine's going to be mounted more down like that, or I'm sorry, our license plate, not our taillight. And they send a bolt and a nut so we can put those on. What you're going to use in order to install these bad boys is the screw that has the round and then a washer. And these are actually threaded in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this guy up and start getting that threaded here. That's going to be a 4. Go ahead and snug this guy up. Also snug a little bit, make sure we get this. I want to get it kind of straight with the angle of the bike. So we can put it right there. Now, we just gotta get the other side put on, so we're gonna follow the same process. I'm gonna get this guy lined up. Use the same round bolt, the washer. I'm gonna get this guy threaded on in. And again, make sure that that is lined up. Pretty good right there. So I'm gonna hold her in place. Snug her down. Good. Alright. Now, this is the plate that we're going to use to go ahead and install onto here. When she lines up, she sits on top of these. And that's how we bolt it down. And this one is going to use flat screws with the washer nut on the back. Then find the right size for this guy, and that one is going to be a 3. Go ahead, hold this nut in place. And get this guy started. Now, all we got to do is go ahead and put everything back together. So we're going to change the camera view again, get you set back up, and we'll start piecing everything, putting it back the way we took it out. Now we are ready to start putting everything back together. Behind the camera, I went ahead and put in a flasher relay. It is also by TST. Super easy to do. All you do is you take out the battery, you take out the stock flasher, you put the new one in, and then it's good to go. This one is set to 85 flash per minute, and that was perfectly fine. It looks super good. I'll show you guys again after we get this all back installed. So first step in putting this back together, we're going to do it the exact same way we took it out, is going to be putting this servo back into place. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this up. We can go ahead and put our rag to the side. I'm going to fix the boot. Make nice again. Get it tucked in there real nice. And then this acts as the nut, so this goes underneath, and then the back side is going to go into place. Oh, I almost forgot. We want to put our cable management clip back into place. So just put that guy back in there, nice and tight. And then, sorry for the sniffly note, it's a little cold up here. We'll get this guy lined up and ready to get put back into place. So, lined up, started nice. Not nice. There we go. Get her all locked into place here. We'll tighten it up after. I'm gonna go ahead and fix my boot. Make sure all this is tucked nice. Nothing's pinching. Don't want to pinch any wires and cause any distress in the future. We can put this guy in place in the front. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten those guys down. Next, we'll go ahead and start grabbing panels and putting them back on. So the first piece is going to be the last one we took off, which was the shield that comes over here. So we'll grab our shield. We're going to go ahead and start getting it ready to put back. We can go ahead and put our cable management clip back on for our servo here. Snap and snap. Let's get her mocked up here, see where this is going to land. These will be tucked underneath. Snap back into place. And then these guys line back up in their holes. You're going to have to kind of pinch her together. And we'll grab our screws for that. And get that guy put back into its spot. Our screws, we'll go ahead and tighten those in. Again, remember we are screwing into plastic. Okay. We'll go ahead and do this side. So those are back into place. Now we can go ahead and grab our side pieces and get those fitted back on in their grommets. So we got our side piece. We're going to go ahead and get that put back on, the opposite of how we took her off. So just snap that piece in. Make sure that that gets locked into its spot. Pinch nice. Remember where our holes were. Line those grommets back up. There should be one up here too. There she is. There we go. And that puts our panel back into its spot where it should be. Go ahead and hook up the other side. Make sure this got lined up correct. We'll go ahead and do this side from this angle so that you guys can kind of see what I see. So pull this back just a smidge. Get that grommet put back in. There we go. And we'll line up our holes again. One down here. And one up top over here. One pushed in. Make sure that seats all the way. This guy pushed in up top. There. Line that up. Here. Everything's fitting back together just how it got taken apart. Got a little dirt there. Okay, and we'll go ahead and grab our fasteners and get those put back into place also. What I did there is what you want to do is push it out so that these guys can close again. And put it in place. Just push that back in place. I just use my fingernail. Snaps right back. We got two more up here. Same thing. And this side over here. put into place. Last thing to do is go ahead and put our screws back into place. Got my screws again. Remember, long with the washer in the back, short with the washer in the middle, long with no washer in the front. Go. She's all buttoned up, looking good as new, except for a little bit better. Now we've got our tail light and our fender on. Alright. So the last piece of this is going to be putting our seats back on. I'm just going to tuck some of the arms. So we're going to feed this back underneath over here, and then clip this down into that. This like a glove. Do the same in the front. Slide this underneath the battery bracket, and then this guy will clip right into that. There we are. She's all put back together, ready to hit the streets. Alright guys, so that's the video. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. In the future, I plan to do some moto vlogging, hopefully. I got a couple more installed videos that we're going to do. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment and ask. One thing I'd like to note is that TST does recommend when you put the Fender Eliminator on, you do use Loctite on the wing nuts that come down and on the side pieces that go in. If you guys have any other questions regarding that, just let me know. I hope this video was helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.